Hey everybody, let's talk about the War of 1812. So how did this war start? Let's go back to America at the time before the war and what was going on. So it's 1801 and the Democratic Republicans are celebrating because they finally have a president in the White House, Thomas Jefferson. The Federalists are not celebrating because they lost, which is sad for them, I guess. They'll get angry later, trust me. In the beginning, it starts off pretty well for Jefferson. In Europe, it's mostly peaceful until Napoleon is just like, I want an empire in the New World. We send James Monroe over to France to negotiate with him because France is just a tad bit more powerful than Spain, who had the territory before them. And we don't really want France right next to us, So. But before Monroe can get there, Napoleon's just like, oh, I don't care anymore. I don't want an empire in the New World. So he offers the Louisiana Territory to Monroe for $15 million. And Monroe's just like, let's see, $15 million to double the size of the United States. Pretty good deal, right? So he takes it without even inquiring from Jefferson, and Jefferson sees it as a major accomplishment. However, Jefferson has a strict interpretation on the Constitution, but in the Constitution, it never says anything about getting a huge new territory for the United States, or any territory in that matter. He's being a loose constructionist, even though he's always been a strict constructionist. And the Federalists are blowing up about it, just being like, this is an outrage, you're a hypocrite, you can't do this. So now that the Federalists are all riled up, it seems like the perfect time for our relations between Great Britain and France to just go terribly south. Even though Napoleon doesn't want an empire in the New World, he still wants a vast French empire in general, basically in Europe. And Great Britain's huge naval force is kind of blocking him from taking over everything. And he's getting a little riled up about that. So Napoleon tells Europe, no more trading with Britain. And Britain responds by saying, any trade that comes through the continent has to come through us so we can search it for war materials. And then Napoleon says, any ships that come from Britain are liable to seizure so we can find war materials in them. So America is put on the spot. If they go straight to Britain, France can check their ships. But if they go straight to France, then Britain can check their ships. And what are they supposed to do? In addition to all of that, Britain continues to impress Americans on the water. And the tensions between America and Great Britain are just getting higher and higher. And that's not good. Then the HMS Leopard opens fire on the USS Chesapeake because the USS Chesapeake said, no, we don't want you to search our ship. Most people in America see this clearly as an act of war, especially the Federalists. The Federalists demand that Jefferson go to war. But Jefferson's just like, we are avoiding a war no matter what. Basically, he stops all trade going out of America, which is known as the Embargo Act of 1807. And he thought it was a good idea at the time, but it actually wasn't. And he ended up repealing the act right before he left in 1809. Before Jefferson's administration ended, Congress passed the Non-Intercourse Act, which stopped trade with Britain and France, at least until one of them made an effort to get the trade back. And wouldn't you know it, Britain made the effort. Britain agreed to drop the requirement for American ships to be searched every time they came in, and America agreed to stop trade with France. However, the British Foreign Secretary did not agree with this, so it didn't happen. But the US already thought they agreed, so they sent ships to Britain for trade, where they were seized because the agreement never happened. Next thing you know, trade with Britain is cut off again. Meanwhile, more and more people in America are saying that we have to go to war with Britain. And eventually, James Madison, the president, formally writes to the Congress telling them we have to go to war, and he gives them a bunch of reasons why they have to go to war. So Congress is given this huge decision. Eventually, they came up with 4 different options, or main options, that they could go about having a war with Great Britain. Option 1. The British have been a pain for like 2 decades now, and the time for talk is over. We have to go to all-out war, and we have to do it now. Option 2. We have to go to a war with Britain. They have been impressing our soldiers and attacking us and basically just being a pain for a while now, and we have to do that, but we should only do it on seas, because this war is about who controls the seas and the trade on the seas. Why risk having a war on American soil? Because it would cost a lot of money to raise a larger army that could fight Britain's forces. It's just a better option to only go to war at sea. Option 3. We have to go to war with Britain, but now is not the time. We are ill-prepared, both our navy and army, so we must wait for the right time to attack them, and we might have a chance of winning this. Option 4. Going to war with one of the strongest nations could be devastating and could cause the destruction of our entire nation that we fought for in 1776, not so long ago. Also, if we wanted to do this war, we would have to tax people to create the army and the navy needed to win this war, which is not necessary. In the end, it's not worth the risk. America chooses option 1, and they suffer heavy casualties because they're basically not ready in either the military or the navy. The British burn part of our nation's capital, and they go to New Orleans to try to take New Orleans, but Andrew Jackson has other plans, and he actually prevails in a huge victory for the U.S. that actually took place after the peace treaties were being signed. After the war, James Monroe basically came up with a plan called the Monroe Doctrine that prohibited any interference from the Europe with the Western Hemisphere. So, that just about wraps up the War of 1812. I'm Sam Malden. See ya.